Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to examine a truly a chilling event, honestly. We're going to be looking at the mid-air collision at Reagan National Airport.
Wow.
We've got, we've done a lot of research for this one,
Yeah.
a lot of research. We've got the air traffic control recordings.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to really try to unpack how and why this tragedy happened. Because, I mean, it's easy to think, clear skies, experienced pilots, how could this happen?
Right.
But, as we dig into the details, I think you'll see it's a series of seemingly small decisions, maybe, and perceptions that can really build up to a catastrophic outcome.
Yeah, and I think what people often misunderstand about aviation safety is it's not, just about the technology.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a huge part of it, but there's this complex web of human factors and procedures and sometimes just limitations of our own senses.
Right. And I think that's what we're really going to see here today as we look at this. So let's set the scene. It's evening, seemingly routine operations at Reagan National. We have American Airlines Flight 3130 coming in.
Okay.
They will be our key witness to the events. Then we have PSA Flight 5342, call sign Blue Streak 5342.
Okay.
It's a CRJ 700, a regional jet on approach. And finally, we have Pat 25, a Black Hawk helicopter.
So just to add a little context to that, runway 33 at Reagan often sees this type of traffic pattern.
Yeah.
You've got, the larger jets coming in on runway 1.
Yeah.
And then the regional jets like the CRJ, they tend to use that shorter runway 33.
Okay. So we've got multiple aircraft converging path, but still under the watchful eyes of air traffic control.
Right.
So you think, everything should be under control, right?
Of course. Yeah.
But that's kind of what makes this story so gripping, honestly. So we're gonna hear the actual air traffic control audio now. It's gonna take us right into those final moments. So listen closely.
Okay.
Audio plays. American 3130 instructed to slow down. Right away, you hear American 3130 being asked to adjust speed. Kind of a hint of the traffic density that evening, I guess.
Yeah.
Audio plays. Pat 25 receives traffic advisories about the CRJ. Okay, now this is where the tension starts to really ratchet up.
Okay.
Pat 25, our helicopter, is getting those traffic advisories, specifically about an inbound CRJ.
Yeah. It's important to remember the context here.
Yeah.
These advisories, they're meant to heighten awareness, but the ultimate responsibility for maintaining separation often falls on the pilot, especially when visual conditions are good.
Right.
Which, in this case, they were.
Right, yeah, and that's exactly what happens next. Audio plays, Pat 25 requests, and is granted visual separation. So this is the pivotal moment.
Okay.
Pat 25 requests and is granted visual separation, stated they have the traffic in sight.
Oh.
Now, for those who aren't familiar, that means the pilot is essentially saying, I see the other aircraft and I'll maintain a safe distance.
Yeah, it's a procedure based on, a lot of trust.
Yeah.
The tower is relying on that pilot's judgment.
Yeah.
Visual perception, which, as we're going to see, can be surprisingly fallible, especially in a dynamic environment, like a busy airspace.
Yeah. And you hear that audio plays tower confirms with Pat 25 repeated confirmation from the tower, almost like emphasizing the weight of this decision.
Right.
What's fascinating is later analysis showed that the tower controller actually had Pat 25 on their radar screen.
Really?
And they could have intervened if they had detected, dangerous convergence.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, it seemed like a routine handover to visual separation.
Yeah, and this is where those human factors come in.
Yeah.
Even with all the technology, that there's this cognitive load on controllers.
Yeah.
Multiple aircraft to track, decisions to make. It's like a real-time puzzle. And in this case, those crucial seconds just ticked by.
Yeah. And then audio plays. Oh. From the tower, collision occurs, that gasp. I mean, you can practically hear the blood drain from the room, It's just... it really sends shivers down your spine knowing what's about to happen.
What often gets overlooked is the emotional toll on the controllers in these situations.
Mm-hmm.
They're trained for emergencies, but to witness a collision like that, it leaves a mark,
Absolutely. But even amidst the shock, you hear that shift immediately into crisis mode.
Yeah, the training kicks in.
Audio plays. immediate aftermath, and tower's response.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible how quickly they regain their composure and start managing the situation,
Yeah.
making sure other aircraft are safe. They're dealing with the horror of what they've just seen, yet they still have to function at the highest level.
It's a testament to their training and professionalism.
Yeah.
But also, think about it. Every instruction they issue now carries the weight of this tragedy.
Yeah.
The stakes are so high.
Okay, let's pause the audio there for a second.
Uh.
So we've just heard the collision.
Yeah.
Now, we know what happened, but our deep dive is really about trying to understand why this happened.
Right.
How could a pilot, under visual conditions, misidentify an aircraft?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And
Yeah.
to answer it, we have to dig deeper into the complexities of visual perception, the potential for what we call cognitive biases, and the factors that can create what's known as a visual illusion in aviation.
Okay, because, it's easy to say, well, they should have just seen the other plane.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's a lot more nuanced than that, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There are elements of lighting, distance, relative speed, even the angle of approach.
Yeah.
All of these things can contribute to a pilot fixating on one aircraft,
Oh.
while another, potentially closer and more dangerous one, just kind of blends into the background. It's almost like a deadly magic trick where your brain is kind of filling in the gaps, but with tragic consequences.
Yeah. That's a chilling thought.
It is.
So back to the audio. What happens in those immediate moments after the collision?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Audio plays. Confusion about aircraft involved. Clarification from the tower.
So at first, there's some confusion about which aircraft were involved.
Yeah, sure.
That kind of speaks to the speed at which this all unfolded.
Right, and the fact that the controllers are processing this whole event
Yeah.
along with everyone else.
Yeah.
It takes a moment for the full picture to come into focus.
Audio plays. Decision to close the airport. And then comes the decision to close the airport. That's a huge call, right?
It is.
Shutting down Reagan National.
Yeah, it really underscores the severity of the situation.
Mhm.
They're prioritizing safety, obviously,
Yeah.
but they also have to secure that crash site for investigation.
Yeah.
And this closure sets off this ripple effect.
Right.
Think about the logistical nightmare, the economic impact,
Oh, yeah.
the thousands of passengers stranded. Right. It just throws everything into disarray. It's such a stark reminder of how one event can have massive cascading consequences.
Absolutely.
Audio plays, ground control halting airport operations. We hear ground control springing into action. Everything's coming to a standstill. It's almost like the city's holding its breath.
Wow.
Audio plays, somber confirmation of no survivors.
Wow.
And then that somber confirmation, no survivors. It's a gut punch.
Yeah.
It's a reminder of the human cost of this whole tragedy.
It is.
Audio plays. Fire chief confirms airfield and runways are closed. The fire chief on scene. The focus now is shifting to recovery. And that brings us to another layer of this story.
Okay.
So we have the call sign Blue Streak. What's the significance there?
Blue Streak is a common call sign for PSA Airlines flights. It's a small detail, but it adds to the human dimension of this event. These aren't just, anonymous aircraft. They have names, they have identities, they have stories, and behind each one there are families, loved ones, and entire lives impacted by this tragedy.
Yeah, that's a really powerful point. It really underscores something we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
This interconnectedness of everything.
So it's true.
One misjudgment, one moment of misperception, and the consequences just reverberate so far and wide.
It's a sobering reality, and it compels us to ask, how do we as a society balance the need for efficient transportation with the absolute imperative of safety?
That's a great question.
But it's a tough one.
So we've established the setting. We've heard that chilling audio of the collision.
Right.
And we've started to peel back some of the layers of human perception and the complexities of aviation procedures. But really, we're just scratching the surface here.
We are. And what's crucial is to understand this isn't just about blaming, one pilot or even one controller. We need to look at those systemic factors that may have contributed.
Yeah.
Were there gaps in training? Were the visual separation procedures adequate for the conditions?
Right. And that's where the real deep dive begins. We'll be back to delve into the investigations, the controversies, and ultimately the lessons learned from this tragic event.
Yeah, looking forward to it. You know, uh, what's particularly striking about this collision at Reagan National is that it occurred despite the incredibly strong safety record of U.S. commercial aviation. It's a stark reminder that even in a system designed for maximum safety, unforeseen circumstances and human factors can still lead to these tragic outcomes.
It's almost like a paradox, isn't it?
It
We have all these procedures in place, all of this technology,
Yeah.
and yet sometimes the human element can still be the most unpredictable variable.
Precisely. And that's why, incidents like this are so thoroughly investigated.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding fault,
Right.
but about uncovering those root causes, identifying any systemic issues, and sharing those learnings to prevent similar tragedies from happening again.
So it's a continuous learning process for the entire aviation industry.
Absolutely. Every incident, however tragic, provides valuable data and insights that can contribute to making air travel even safer. It's a testament to the industry's commitment to constant improvement.
Okay, so let's talk about the investigation. What did they find? Was it simply a case of pilot error, or was there more to it?
Well, the National Transportation Safety Board, they conducted an exhaustive investigation.
Yeah.
And their findings were quite complex. They determined that the primary cause of the collision was indeed the helicopter pilot's misidentification of the approaching CRJ.
But you said earlier that visual perception can be tricky, especially in a busy airspace.
Right.
So was it just a case of the pilot not looking carefully enough?
And not necessarily. Remember, we're dealing with a highly experienced pilot here, someone with a lot of flight hours. The investigation dug deeper and found that several factors might have contributed to the misidentification. Well, the lighting conditions were one factor. It was dusk, and the runway lights might have created a visual illusion, making it difficult to accurately judge the distance and relative speed of the approaching aircraft.
So you're saying like the environment itself might have played a role.
Exactly. And there's another interesting element here. The investigation revealed that the helicopter pilot had been focused on American Airlines flight 3130, which, as you remember, was further behind the CRJ on a slightly different flight path.
Wait, so they were looking at the wrong plane.
It seems likely. There's a phenomenon known as confirmation bias, where once we have this mental model of a situation, we tend to filter out information that doesn't fit.
Right.
In this case, the pilot might have locked onto American 3130 and unconsciously disregarded the CRJ as it approached, perhaps assuming it was further away than it actually was.
That's a scary thought. It's like your brain playing tricks on you.
It is.
But with potentially deadly consequences.
And this is precisely why this incident is so significant. It highlights the limitations of human perception, even among, highly trained professionals.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we're not infallible, and that even with the best training and experience, mistakes can happen.
So where does that leave us in terms of preventing similar incidents in the future?
Well, the NTSB made several recommendations following the investigation. Some focused on improving pilot training.
Okay.
Others on refining air traffic control procedures.
Like what specifically?
Well, one key recommendation was to enhance training for pilots on the dangers of visual illusions and cognitive biases.
Okay.
They suggested incorporating more realistic simulations and scenario-based training to help pilots better recognize and respond to these challenging perceptual situations.
So essentially, like helping pilots see more effectively in a complex airspace.
Exactly. Another recommendation focused on air traffic control procedures. Remember, in this case, the tower controller had the helicopter on radar and could have potentially intervened.
Right.
The NTSB suggested exploring ways to improve, real-time monitoring and communication, perhaps with enhanced alerting systems that could flag potential conflicts, even when visual separation is in effect.
That sounds like a pretty significant technological change.
It would be, but it highlights the ongoing evolution of aviation safety.
Yeah.
It's this constant striving for improvement, this layering of technology and procedures to mitigate risks and create as safe an environment as possible.
And remember, this incident also had a huge impact on Reagan National Airport itself.
Of course.
We talked about the immediate closure, but what about the long-term consequences?
Well, in the aftermath of the collision, there were calls for a reassessment of flight paths and procedures at Reagan National.
Okay.
Some argued that the close proximity of the two runways and the circling approach used for runway 33 increased the potential for conflicts and created unnecessary risks.
So there were suggestions to actually change the way the airport operates.
There were. The Federal Aviation Administration, they conducted this comprehensive review and ultimately implemented some changes, including adjusting flight paths, enhancing radar coverage, and implementing new training protocols for air traffic controllers specific to the unique challenges of Reagan's airspace.
So they took concrete steps to try and prevent a repeat of this tragedy.
They did, and this speaks to the importance of accountability and continuous improvement in aviation safety. Yeah. Every incident is an opportunity to learn, to adapt, and to make the system more robust.
Okay, so we've covered the investigation, the recommendations, the impact on the airport.
Right.
But I want to go back to something you said earlier about the human cost of this tragedy.
Yeah.
We can't forget about the people involved. You know, the pilots, the passengers, their families.
Absolutely.
It's easy to get caught up in the technical details.
Sure.
But ultimately, this was a loss of life.
Right.
A profound event that rippled through countless lives.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And this brings us back to the heart of our deep dive.
Yeah.
The understanding that aviation safety isn't just about, numbers and statistics. It's about people.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the human element in every aspect of the system and striving to create an environment where those human lives are protected to the fullest extent possible.
That's a powerful message. It makes me think about all the people who work tirelessly behind the scenes to make air travel safe.
Right.
The engineers, the mechanics, the air traffic controllers, the pilots themselves.
All of them.
They're all part of this complex web.
They are.
And their dedication is ultimately what keeps us safe in the skies.
Precisely. And events like this, while tragic, serve as a reminder of the importance of that dedication, the constant vigilance and the ongoing pursuit of excellence in aviation safety.
So we've explored the events leading up to the collision, the factors that contributed to the pilot's misidentification and the aftermath of the tragedy. But what about the larger questions this event raises?
You're talking about the philosophical implications, the ethical dilemmas.
Exactly. I mean, we're in an era of increasing automation,
right,
with technology playing a larger and larger role in aviation. Does this incident make us question our reliance on technology, or does it actually point to the need for even more advanced systems to help mitigate human error?
That's a crucial question, and it's one that aviation experts and policymakers continue to grapple with.
Yeah.
On the one hand, technology can enhance safety by providing more information, reducing workload, and alerting us to potential conflicts.
Right.
But on the other hand, over-reliance on technology can lead to complacency and a decline in those essential human skills, vigilance, judgment, and the ability to respond effectively to unexpected situations.
So it's about finding that balance, that sweet spot where technology complements and enhances human capability,
right,
rather than replacing them entirely.
Exactly. And this leads us to a broader conversation about the future of aviation. As we move towards more automated systems, perhaps even autonomous aircraft, we need to consider the ethical and societal implications. How do we ensure that human oversight and decision making remain central to the process, even as machines take on more responsibility?
That's a deep question.
It is,
and one that deserves careful consideration. But for now, let's bring it back to the specific event we've been exploring. This mid-air collision at Reagan National was a tragedy, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the complexities of human perception, but it was also a catalyst for change, prompting improvements in training procedures and technology.
And it serves as a timeless lesson about the importance of human vigilance, the need for continuous learning, and the constant striving for a safer and more resilient aviation system.
So as we conclude this deep dive, what final thoughts would you like to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important takeaway is this: aviation safety is a shared responsibility. It's up to all of us, pilots, controllers, engineers, policymakers, and even passengers, to stay informed, to ask questions, and to advocate for a culture of safety that prioritizes human life above all else.
That's a powerful message. And it's a reminder that while technology can play a vital role, ultimately it's the human element, our choices, our actions, our commitment to safety that will determine the future of aviation.
Well said.
As we wrap up this deep dive, it strikes me that we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
from the immediate impact of the collision to the broader questions it raises about human perception and the future of aviation.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? And I think it highlights the importance of approaching these complex events like this with a multi-layered perspective.
Yeah.
We can't just focus on the technical aspects. We
Yeah.
have to consider the human factors, the systemic issues, and the ethical dilemmas that often lie beneath the surface.
Absolutely. And speaking of ethical dilemmas, this case brings up some really thought-provoking questions about accountability and responsibility in aviation.
Precisely.
Yeah.
For instance, there was a lot of debate after the collision about whether the air traffic controller could have done more to prevent the accident.
Right.
Even though visual separation was in effect, the controller did have the helicopter on their radar screen.
So could they have intervened more decisively?
It's a complex question. On the one hand, controllers are trained to trust pilots when they declare visual separation.
Right.
It's a fundamental principle of air traffic control. But on the other hand, with advances in technology, there's a growing capability for controllers to provide more real-time monitoring and support,
Yeah.
even in visual conditions.
Almost like a philosophical shift in the role of air traffic control.
In a way, it is. It raises questions about the balance between, human judgment and automated systems,
Yeah.
and how those roles will evolve as technology continues to advance.
And then there's the question of pilot responsibility.
Right.
I mean, we talked about the factors that might have contributed to the misidentification, but ultimately the pilot was in control of the aircraft.
That's right. And aviation has always operated under the principle of pilot accountability.
Yeah.
Pilots are ultimately responsible for the safe operation of their aircraft.
Right.
But this incident also prompts us to consider the limits of human performance,
Right.
and the role that systemic factors can play in contributing to errors.
So it's not a simple case of pointing fingers.
No, it's not. It's about understanding the complexities of human decision making in a high pressure, high stakes environment.
Right.
And it's about creating systems and trainograms that recognize those complexities and provide as much support as possible to help pilots make the best decisions in every situation.
This deep dive has really driven home the point that aviation safety is a multifaceted journey.
And it's an ongoing challenge.
Yeah.
We can't afford to become complacent. We have to constantly learn from incidents like this, adapt our procedures, and continue to invest in research and development to make air travel as safe as humanly possible.
So where do we go from here? What are the key takeaways from this tragedy that we can carry forward into the future of aviation? I think one crucial lesson is the importance of acknowledging and addressing the limits of human perception.
Yeah.
We need to design systems and training programs that account for these limitations and provide pilots with the tools and support they need to make accurate judgments, even under challenging conditions.
Like those enhanced training programs you mentioned earlier, focusing on visual illusions and cognitive biases.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another key takeaway is the need for continuous improvement in air traffic control procedures and technology.
Okay.
As airspace becomes more congested and aircraft become more sophisticated, we need to ensure that our systems can keep pace,
Right.
and provide the level of monitoring and support that pilots and controllers need to make safe decisions.
And I think on a more philosophical level, this incident challenges us to think deeply about the balance between um, human control and automation in aviation.
As we move towards more automated systems, we have to be mindful of the potential risks of over-reliance on technology and ensure that human judgment and oversight remain at the forefront of the aviation system.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
We can't simply hand over the reins to machines and assume everything will be will be fine.
Right.
We need to be thoughtful and deliberate in how we integrate technology,
Yeah.
always with a focus on enhancing human capabilities, not replacing them entirely.
Well said. And I think this deep dive has been a testament to that approach.
It has.
We've taken this complex event, dissected it from multiple angles, and uncovered insights that go far beyond the initial headlines.
It's been a privilege to join you on this journey.
Well, thank you.
And to our listeners, I hope this deep dive has provided you with a greater understanding of the challenges and complexities of aviation safety, as well as a renewed appreciation for the dedication and expertise of the people who work tirelessly to keep us safe in the skies.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you.
And that wraps up another deep dive.
It does.
Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and thanks for joining us.